So I guess I'm not technically a big reader in the literary sense. I like my sports magazines, and specifically these two. But I come across some articles every now and then that make me kind of think and wonder and then kind of come up with something. And I like to bring it onto the show. I like to drag it in to the Eric Pedigo show here on ericpedigo.com. See how I did that? All right, but this is what I came up with. In my last issue of Sports Illustrated, and here in the back, it's, can't hardly see it, but since Rick Riley left, they've been kind of running a carousel of writers in to do a little story on the back page, because that was Rick Riley's section, and he's obviously the greatest sports writer of all time. So he's a tough guy to replace, but they do a pretty good job. I know they put I think Selena Roberts back there a couple times, and this guy Phil Taylor, who is the guy we're getting ready to talk about, and just a few other people they kind of bring in and out. And the story I want to talk about, and like I said, this happened a couple of months ago, but they just reported on it. They just kind of did I don't know. He's kind of going back to it a little bit, and this happened a couple of months ago, and you may recall hearing about this. But in a high school girls game down in Texas between Covenant High School and Dallas Academy, it was a girls game, all right, and I know, not only do I not talk about girls basketball in general, but I never talk about girls high school basketball. I'll actually be talking quite a bit of girls basketball tonight, which is, please don't go away. Don't go running away right now. Just hear me out. But this was the game in which the Covenant High beat Dallas Academy 100-0. And it's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. It wasn't 90-5. It was literally 100-0. All right, and here's where the whole thing kind of blew up and got a little crazy. A guy named Grimes. Micah Grimes is his name. 30-year-old coach named Micah Grimes. He is, I guess, the guilty party in this. He is the coach of the Covenant High team that laid 100 on these girls from Dallas Academy. And obviously there was an uproar after this, and there were people emailing in from all over, and even as far away from Australia. It covers it in the article. He said that he and his wife Felicia found stories about the controversy from as far away as Australia, and he thought to himself, they hate me in Australia? This guy really, really got people to not like him a lot by routing another team 100-0. But it got me thinking, and my initial gut reaction was, wow, 100-0? How does that even happen? And that's a ridiculously just lopsided game. It almost seems like the other team, the team that scored 0, was trying to not score 0 and let this other team get to 100. And I know, and you're thinking, well, he's got to lay off, he's got to bring in his backups, he's got to get his starters off the floor, he's got to do everything he can to be a good sport. But if you go into some details and you read this stuff, you know, he pulled the press off when it was 25-0. I mean, 25-0, he takes the press off, right? No more pressing. All right, and for the record, it was 59-0 at halftime. And then, let me read this. Smith Dog says, Mike Wilbon once said on PTI, the AD who had set up the game should have been fired. I don't think so. I don't think that this is that big of a deal, but I'll get to that. Apparently, this guy, this Micah Grimes, only has 8 players on his team, all right? So no matter what happens, he's got to have at least 2 starters on the floor at all times. So you can't just bring in the B squad, because there literally isn't one. There's only 3 players on the bench. So he does what he can. He pulls the press off. But then, I mean, what do you do? Do you just stop playing? Do you just let the other team score a bunch of points? Isn't that? And he even said, what? He's like, are we supposed to put our arms down in the lane and let them go just score? Wouldn't that be more insulting? And I totally agree. And this guy got fired because the principal or the AD or whatever of his school posted something on the school's website that, publicly apologized for what happened in the game. And Micah Grimes gets on the website and posts a message that says, I don't apologize. The school's doing this without me. I do not apologize for this. I don't feel I did anything wrong. And there's also another little side story where people are making things up like, well, this other team was handicapped, and they should have shown a little. Well, listen, just so you know, there are kids at this school who suffer from things like dyslexia and other learning problems, but they are in no way physically impaired. They're not out there with missing legs and crutches and wheelchairs. That's not what was happening. They didn't have Down syndrome or anything like that. It's dyslexia. The dyslexic kids can play basketball. All right, they can't. So you can't say, well, you're picking on these poor handicapped kids. It wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. I literally think, and after halftime, the coach said to the guy running the clock, hey man, running clock, don't stop the clock for anything. Let's get this over with as soon as possible. So this Micah Grimes, I think, is kind of getting. I guess he got fired for having too good of a team when it comes down to it. I mean, I guess they fired him because he said he didn't apologize. He didn't agree with the school and didn't apologize. But I mean, let's face it. If he doesn't win a game 100-0, he doesn't get fired. So he got fired for being too good and making another team look too bad. I'm wondering if the right guy got fired. Doesn't it seem like the other coach is the one who should probably get fired? I mean, honestly, if you're coaching a team and you can't even put 1 point on the board, you can't make one basket, I don't care who you're playing. You play the entire game and you can't score once? Out the door. Yeah, out the door. There's no excuse for that. I don't care how good the team is you're playing. You got to score once. I mean, you have to score once. So obviously the wrong coach got fired. I mean, the guy that's winning 100-0, give that guy a raise, right? That's what. Do you want to win games or not? This guy obviously knew what he was doing. He had the game plan drawn up pretty well. It's the other coach that needed to get fired.